Live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, and a man who's probably more angry than anybody on the face of the planet, and who's probably in sorrow. Joe DeLeone, good morning, good sir.
I almost wouldn't classify it as anger at this point. I'm dead inside. Like I got it all kind of out yesterday, and I'm probably gonna dispel some anger again today when we get to it. I'm dead inside. I'm legitimately dead inside. We are constantly referring to Notre Dame. Everybody, we don't even need to explain what I'm talking about. We all know what I'm talking about. Just can't be good. Just can't be good, Blake. And I'll save my reaction for it. But of course, week 2. I'll say I'm glad that I can focus on the rest of these games because I don't care what Notre Dame does for the rest of the year.
That's not true. You're going to be tuned in for every.
Well, I have to be. I'm contracted by Bleacher Report to do reactions every time they play a game. So I have to be tuned in. That's the horrible part about all of this.
That's funny. Yeah. Here's the thing that I think is hilarious, and I kind of went on a little war path.
I saw.
LSU lost to USC last week, and of course, here come the Notre Dame fans. And then you have the guy, Always Irish, who blistered my mentions all week only for his team to go out there and lose to Northern Illinois. Here's what I'm going to say, and I'm dead serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
Riley Leonard is not ready. That is the bottom line.
It's not a Riley Leonard thing, man.
Yes,
this all comes
No,
down to
1%.
Marcus Freeman.
No,
it's
bullshit.
all on Marcus Freeman.
Bullshit.
He had receivers dropping open passes. He had his offensive line selling him out.
He had one drop on third down.
There was an overall lack of execution. The offense was asleep after the whole first drive, and the first drive was also lackluster.
I agree with that. He's 1 for 7 on third down, though. By the way, you pushed back on me last week when they went 2 of 10 on third down. They're not efficient on third down.
Well, any normal human being, any logic would have dictated that you played a really good game on the road, and this is where all my frustration really comes to just full culmination. You play a really good game on the road in a tough environment. The offense struggles a little bit, and then you have a cakewalk game where you paid to play them to work through your issues.
$4 million to get your ass up.
You would think that those deficiencies on third down would be repped in that game because you're up by 20 points. But because you didn't push your team in practice like you do all of the time at Marcus Freeman, you lose a game that you're supposed to win. So I wasn't worried last week, and now it doesn't matter after this week because their season is over. I don't want to hear anyone trying to act like it's not. Notre Dame should not. If Notre Dame goes 11-1, they should not go to the playoff with a loss to a G5 team. They shouldn't. Be a joke.
Their season's not over. There's a lot of things that can happen. So I'm not going to say that their season's over. I'm not as, reactionary on that as you are. But we'll talk about that game. We do got a lot of games that we got to talk about here, Joe. And in no specific order, Texas absolutely houses Michigan. Mm-hmm. Tennessee absolutely houses NC State. Nebraska, which, look, we got to have a serious conversation about Colorado here. I kind of try to tell you about both lines of scrimmage. You wouldn't listen.
Yep.
It was what it was. We got to talk about South Carolina absolutely putting the clamps down on Kentucky, and then Arkansas and Oklahoma State. But here's how I want to start off the show this morning. Joe, week 2 in college football was drunk. You had a lot of teams that were supposed to be on the top that came out sluggish. You got Oregon in a dogfight with Boise because Genty just goes off. You have Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU, all struggling out of the gate here.
Yeah.
All of them win, but struggling out of the gate in the SEC. But I even look at some of the other teams and other programs. Joe, college football is drunk through week 2, and I got a theory on this that I want to bounce off of you. maybe we all need to stop worrying about NIL and transfer portal and start worrying about football games. Because I think a lot of these kids are worried about what they're making, their brand, and et cetera, besides getting to work. But college football in week 1 and 2 has been absolutely insane.
Well, the craziest part, and I think you just brought it up here, a lot of the teams that are playing the best are the teams that are just on well-coached rosters, really good coaching staffs, teams that are playing together, that have been around one another for multiple years, that have been through summer workouts and spring ball. Those are the teams that are playing well right now. And
Well,
any team.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. What were you going to say? What were you going to say?
You know what all of those teams have? All of them have one key component. You ready?
What?
They have an experienced quarterback.
That was something that we talked about a ton in the offseason. The teams that you should back are the ones with talented and experienced quarterbacks. But I think you summed it up perfectly. This might have been one of the wildest week 2s, like talking about like the first month of the season, early weeks that I can remember. Because normally these games are supposed to be, most of them that happened yesterday are supposed to be warm-up games. We didn't have a very exciting week 2 slate, but we had a ton of teams. Kansas lost. Georgia Tech was ranked and they lost. Iowa was ranked and they lost. We had so many teams lose and then also struggle to separate from teams that they were supposed to dominate until the fourth quarter. One of the most insane weeks that I can remember, and I think a lot of people can agree with that.
Remember the stat line that I gave in picks? I should have taken my own advice. Every 4 years, Iowa State beats Iowa. I should have taken it.
Okay, well, that's just that I hate trends like that, but yeah, I guess there's truth to it. It's
got to be truth to it.
It's a statistical fallacy that does not mean anything.
Not. I am a superstitious human being. I should have taken Iowa State. I would have gone 7-3. But to your point, Syracuse, and I know that Alex is in here. We'll get to super chat in just a moment.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll get to. I'm curious to see what he. We'll get to a super chat before we hit the break. Sorry, what were we going to say though?
But Syracuse is a very tough opponent. They're a tough team. Like Fran Brown came out yesterday in the postgame saying, hey, just because I'm in the Northeast, I've been with Kirby and Nick. Do you think I was really going to be soft? And I'm like, damn. I mean, like that was that was a really good line there. But, Joe, to your point, Oregon has been in 2 dogfights in week 2. Now, that's either going to really propel them or really hurt them. Their O-line, I don't know what to make of their O-line. And here's another thing, too. Oklahoma beats Houston. They can't run the football. Like we talked about their O-line too. They cannot run the football in Houston. And that
we can't also, by the way, that Houston team got smoked by UNLV last week. So that's a really bad close win for Oklahoma. That's like embarrassingly bad how close that game was.
No doubt. And then you have Bama USF, excuse me. I mean, like, now listen. I mean, they separated in the fourth quarter. It was what it was. But, you know, it's just very interesting to me. By the way, I found the biggest thing that happened to me this week is one thing. You want to know?
What?
I found out how to say Nico Iamaleava's real name. And it's
not. It was because you're watching the broadcast and they said
I was watching the broadcast.
Iamaleava?
Iamaleava.
You just said 2 different ways.
Iamaleava is how he pronounces it. Iamaleava is how he wants it being pronounced.
Okay, we're sticking with Nico.
No, Nico Iamaleava. I figured it out because I watched the game and then watched
said
it
it 3 different ways, so I don't know.
Iamaleava is how he wants it pronounced.
Okay,
but either the way, that's the big thing here.
Yep.
So we'll get into all these. We got lots and lots to discuss. We'll get to Notre Dame first. We got some comments rolling in here. Why don't you do us a favor right now? Hit the like and share before we get to the break. Share to all your people. Elk70 says, told y'all that Texas wide receivers would run wild. They didn't run wild. They didn't. The tight end ran wild.
Well, they had some good plays. I'm like squinting at the second. Okay, so Elk says Howard.
Also Howard is better than Leonard, and McCord would be an upgrade over Leonard. Joe, Oregon on major fraud alert. Jeremiah Smith is him.
Oh, look, I don't know how you can see the stat line and also the throws that Kyle McCord made in that game against Georgia Tech, which is a good ACC opponent. Like, that's not a walkover bad ACC opponent. We've established that Georgia Tech is going to be a competitive, tough out for everybody that play on a week-to-week basis. We can't act like there's this massive separation. This was my whole point. There was no massive separation between Kyle McCord and Will Howard. They are closer than Ohio State fans wanted to admit. And he's capable of putting up big numbers and having big games.
Here's the thing. And Alex, I love you. You support this show more than anybody.
Yes. Yeah, appreciate it. We love you, Alex, in all seriousness.
For real. We love you. You support the show more than anybody. But let me say this. Alex, you haven't played anybody. Right? And I think that there comes a part two. How is Will Howard going to react when he starts playing some better opponents? Now, he could react fine. But let's not act like last week that people weren't coming in here, Ohio State fans, talking about how sluggish they looked. So, Elks, you know what I'm trying to say here. We love your support here. Beef Stick with a $5 super chat.
Beef Stick.
Okay, pause. He says, I hate the fact that I love Notre Dame. My current divorce has been easier than being a fan for 32 years on this planet. Go Irish. Well, first off, I'm sorry for your divorce, but I'm also sorry that you're an Irish fan, and I'm glad that you actually like me as an Irish fan. That makes me feel good.
Well, maybe congrats on your divorce. You never know what
you never
situations happening there. I'm not going through a divorce, but it feels like it. It really feels like the pain that I'm suffering. Again, I'm dead inside. It feels like a breakup that you're going through because you're just watching something that you've loved and you've poured your heart into die in front of your eyes.
To all Notre Dame fans, just I'm going to say, because I've learned it more than most. Okay, Joe, I'm going to say this, okay, and I'm not going to put it in the clip video that we're going to have, so I'm going to say it here. Mm-hmm. I also remember when LSU lost to Troy. Now, it wasn't year 3 in Ed Orgeron, and then a year later or 2 years later won a national title with the best team ever. So I'm not saying that it's program defining, but Ed was in year 1, right? And I think that it's a lot different than the situation that Marcus Freeman's in. And look, I will say this. I'm going to bring this up again later. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame is not a place for a guy like Marcus Freeman to cut his teeth.
It's not.
It just isn't. And so here's the truth. You're going to have to suffer through some of these things. If you're a Notre Dame fan, I told you this 2 years ago.
Wait, so this is what I'm going to say. Bullshit on we're going to have to suffer through these things. He shouldn't be the coach. It's over. This is done. Like I'm done getting completely pie in the face. I'm sick of it. This is embarrassing.
Well,
this is pathetic.
Well, you have 2 options. Either you're going to let him stay and let him continue to cut his teeth and have losses like this before things are established, or
it's what's going to happen.
Well, it's what kind of might at this point, because you're so far into it, you need to let it happen. Here's what I'm going to say too. You need to recruit through high school at quarterback and develop.
We have been. CJ Carr was one of the highest recruited kids in this upcoming class.
You have had in the last 5 years, you've had a new starting quarterback coming in. No one's been in that program for more than 1 year. Nobody.
He's only been there for 3 years. So
Brian
he is on
Brian Kelly included.
I know. Okay, but he's on a track to be fine at recruiting and developing quarterbacks. There's a lot of hype for CJ Carr.
Well, you're about to lose one.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do everything to keep him. And Deuce Knight.
They're not keeping him.
Although I don't know why Deuce Knight would want to sign up to play at Auburn with the way that they looked against Cal.
By the way, yes. Another game we didn't talk about week 2. Cal goes into Auburn and wins. Jeez, Marion Joseph. Cody McGee with a $5 super chat says, weird week 2, even Penn State struggled against Bowling Green. Joe, we're going to keep talking about these games, and I'm going to tell you something. If it weren't for Drew Aller, they were going to lose.
Yeah. Aller had a big game, but that was how I thought the Notre Dame game was going to pan out. Like, I really thought that Notre Dame was going to just play like crap in the first half and then separate, but that didn't happen. But, yeah, that was a weird game, too. That was a really weird game.
All right, couple more, then we got to really get rolling here. Veteran on YouTube with a $2 super chat says, why can't Notre Dame develop a quarterback? Why is Portal the way? I'll go here because LSU's had a lot of success with portal quarterbacks. Joe, this guy behind me.
Yes. I'm not disagreeing with you.
You got to go out and get the elite portal quarterbacks. And here's the thing. You can't worry about Riley Leonard Like Joe Burrow in his first game went like 10 for 22 against Miami. You got to give this more time. And this is the part that I'm talking about cutting your teeth. Right? This is going to be a problem until next year. Now, can he come back next year? Can Riley Leonard come back next year?
Yeah, I think he has one more year of eligibility.
Well, good. Because listen, until you start getting sustainability at that position, you're not going to have good outcomes at that position. Look, this is how I believe it. Michael Sims.
Michael.
Okay, Michael with a $5 super chat says, "Can we stop with the Ohio State hate? Kyle McCord left. He didn't want to compete at Ohio State last week. Looked sluggish, but still beat them bad." I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I'm kind of thanks for the super chat, but I'm kind of confused with what direction that's going in. But there is true. I mean, Ohio State fans need to stop hating on Kyle McCord. Like, let the kid live. Let the
kid live. But here's the thing: you can't say Michigan's been cheating and blame shit on Kyle McCord.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't been a fan of. But I mean, you should be rooting for the kid to do well.
Yeah. You got to play somebody, man. And Ohio State fans, I love you. I have someone very close to me on that staff, okay? Very close to me. But the bottom line remains, okay, that you got to stop talking shit, all right? You haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
And so wait until you get into a big game before you start doing that. All right, Joe, we got lots and lots to discuss. We want to talk about a good buddy, not Chris Gates, Chris Gaines, and his Pitt Panthers come all the way back in DeVete, Cincinnati. Talking about our good friend Chris Gates.
Yeah, Chris was hyped up after the Pitt win. And if you want to look for a trainer that's going to help you reach your goals, that's a football fan and be a part of the football community while you're working on those goals, look no further than ChrisGatesFitness.com. His online training camp is going to help you reach your goals and get the results with your health and fitness without cutting out everything that you love, like drinking beer and tailgating for football games in the fall. In training camp, you'll get all the support that you need to build muscle, burn fat, and stay consistent with your workouts. At the same time, you'll be joining that community of like-minded people doing the same exact thing. Go to ChrisGatesFitness.com/training camp. Use that promo code RuffinoJoe. And also just to look ahead for September, there are 2-day, 3-day, and 4-day options, as well as fun pick 'em for college football opportunities to compete with some of the other people a part of it. ChrisGatesFitness.com/training camp. Go check it out.
Let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. We're back next to talk about some college football. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. All right, quick stat. I just got sent from our buddy Josh Pate. The former Pac-12 in the first 2 weeks is 21-2.
Oh, the former Pac. Oof, wow. I thought you were going to say the current Pac-2.
No, actually, you want to know what the current Pac-2 is? Undefeated.
Respect them.
Got to respect them. All right, let's go. Joe, Notre Dame goes down to Northern Illinois in an outright thriller. I know that you don't like hearing that, but it was a thriller of a game, a hell of a game, a fun game if you had no rooting interest, which I did actually have a rooting interest for Northern Illinois here. But your Notre Dame Fighting Irish fall. Let's talk about this game. What did you think of it?
Look, I said this after the Marshall loss. I said this after the Stanford loss. And then I allowed for myself to let Marcus Freeman prove me wrong. After Louisville, after Clemson. I keep coming back to one thing that is so evident for Notre Dame in these types of losses. They come out flat. There's no attention to detail. There's no aggressiveness in an opportunity to demolish an opponent that you're supposed to beat, to have momentum, to take pride in who you're going up against. And that all comes down to the head coach, plain and simple. I understand a lot of people want to blame Riley Leonard, and I know that we're going to talk about that. I know some people want to blame Mike Denbrock. But when your whole team, specifically your offense, is not fighting on a snap-to-snap basis and is getting punched in the mouth, it means your head coach is not preparing your team during the week of practice and is not having the level of discipline necessary for your team to show up and play a great game. It was one thing when it happened in year 1, Blake, but we're in year 3 of this shit. We're in year 3. I'm over it. I said before, I would have gladly allowed for Marcus Freeman to prove me wrong. Gladly, absolutely would have allowed him to show some things. And he showed me last week, but I'm done. He's not the guy. He is not the coach that is going to get Notre Dame to the national championship prominence that they could possibly be at. He's recruiting at a tremendous level, but he does not push his guys to the level that they need to be pushed on a week-to-week basis. It shows up too freaking often. It is embarrassing that they lost to a MAC team. Absolutely embarrassing. There is no recoverability from this, Blake, and I don't care if that is an overreaction. They need to get an established sitting head coach, and that needs to be the move. I don't know when you get rid of him, but there is no way that this turns into being a national championship contending team. There's absolutely no way.
I'm not going to go that far, man. I do think you're overreacting, and let me tell you why. Let me get to Marcus before I get to the game. Hold on one second. I said this 2 years ago when you hired him, and I'm going to continue to say it every single year. And me and you discussed this at great length multiple times and had multiple debates on this. When you hire a first-time head coach at a place like Notre Dame, you are going to have these bad losses, and it sucks, and you hate it. And I understand that you're in year 3. I get it. I 100% get it. However, even though Nick Saban in the very beginning of his career had some head coaching experience, as an LSU guy, I'm going to tell you, I'm not saying he's Saban. Don't get what I'm saying twisted. They had some very putrid losses. Very, very, very bad losses.
Did they lose to a MAC team?
They lost to ULM.
But that was in his first year.
Okay, he did that at Bama, but he did it at LSU too. They lost to UAB. Okay, there have been times that we have seen really good coaches, okay, legitimately have struggles. But the problem is that Marcus is learning on the job. And that's the problem that I think that people are continuing to miss here.
Okay, hold on, Blake. I don't mean to cut you off, but we said this last year after the Louisville game. We said this last year after the Clemson game. And at least those games were against competitive ACC teams. It was one team that went to the ACC championship game. It's year 3. They lost to a MAC team.
Joe, you've never hired a coach that's you've never had at Notre Dame, and maybe in a long time, you've never had a coach that's never been a head coach before you hired him. You're going to have these situations now.
Okay, wait. Of course he's given the – look, I understand what you're saying that, like, he should be given a little grace for, like,
I'm not giving him grace. I'm not giving him grace. What I'm doing here is just advising that when you make a move like this and your AD, okay, doesn't want to be that guy. Notre Dame should – let me tell you what Notre Dame should be, okay? And you push back on me on this all the time. Notre Dame should be, and I hate to say it like this, they should start putting their nuts on the table with as much money as they have. They should be running the sport and doing whatever they want. But here's the thing that continues to plague you. You settled, and you will continue to settle. Now, here's where I'm going to defend Marcus Freeman to this part. Joe, Northern Illinois had 190 rushing yards on you, and then Antonio Brown kid went absolutely bananas. Now, the part in this is, yes, it is Marcus Freeman's job to get this team up. It's Marcus Freeman's job to get them inspired for every single game. But at what point during that game did that really good elite defense not look each other in the eye and say, man, we got to put this team away?
That's Marcus Freeman's responsibility. That's his responsibility. They played flat the whole game.
Ben Morrison gave up a crucial third down on 3rd and 8 because he got beat. That's not on Marcus. That's on you that's not on you not wanting to be there. And here's another thing too.
But that's the coach's responsibility to motivate his team to want to be there.
Joe, you can't put it all on Marcus when you have 3 defensive linemen that are getting their shit pushed in. Sorry.
When you have guys that are good enough to dominate in those games, it's on your head coach to not motivate them.
When they're down 16-14, or when they're down early in the game, or they're tied early in the game, at what point did they look each other in the eye? When did they quote unquote look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? We're kind of getting our asses beat and we better turn it up.
I've never seen Marcus Freeman. This is something I pointed out yesterday to Sean. I've never seen Marcus Freeman go up to guys on the sideline and yell at them and try to motivate them, to try to get them motivated. Sure, yeah, it would be great if the defense rallied around themselves, but why isn't the freaking head coach doing that? Why do we have to rely on the players to motivate themselves? He is the head coach. He does nothing to motivate them.
No, elite dudes govern themselves. And you
no, come on, man. You're making an excuse for Marcus Freeman. He's done this too many times. There's no more excuses that can be made.
No, they lined up, ran it right at you, and Howard Cross, that D-line got their shit pushed in. Let's call it
because of the head coach.
We have isn't on the field.
He's on the sideline, just standing there, stone-faced, emotionless.
Defensive lineman got his shit pushed in.
Blake, stop. When your team does this multiple times, I have watched this happen 5 times now against weaker opponents. It has to go on the coach. We can't keep finding different reasons for maybe it was this game. Well, yeah, the defensive line didn't play well. Oh, well, Riley Leonard, made some really bad decisions. The general tone and feel of this team was pathetic. It was effortless. We have to look in the mirror and acknowledge that it is the head coach is responsible for rallying his team at halftime.
Okay, can we get past that for just a second? Okay. Define what happened in the running game against Notre Dame. Because here's the truth. 2 things happened in this game and why you lost, in my opinion. You couldn't stop them running the football at a consistent basis, especially on 3rd and 4th down. And then you got away from running the football. Now, I love Mike more than anybody, but Mike has a tendency of getting away from running the football. Jeremiah Love should have had 25 touches after he broke that long run.
Yeah.
So, again, you say whatever you want about Marcus Freeman. I understand what you're saying, but there comes a part where you couldn't line up and dominate Northern Illinois, and then you got away from the running game. That's what got you beat.
If a business is failing and everybody's making mistakes across the board, you have to and you will go and look. The man running the operation, the CEO, is the one who is making the mistakes. You have to point to that. If a ship is crashing and going down, it all comes down to who is piloting that ship, who is the captain of that ship.
I'm sorry, I love you to death. You can't come in here and blame everything on him when you have multiple. Hold on, when you have multiple All-Americans, okay, a Broyles Award finalist, okay, and you know what else you can't do? Marcus Freeman, I guarantee you, would not have told Riley Leonard to throw that deep post into double coverage. Sorry.
Look, I'm not absolving everyone else of blame. There were tons of issues. Riley Leonard played a bad game. Mike Denbrock called a horrible game. They should not have been throwing a deep post when you have 4 minutes to go to just close out the game. That was an insanely stupid.
He had Chris Mitchell open at the sticks.
But they shouldn't take that shot anyways. They should have just ran the ball, ran out the clock. The game would have been over and you get out of there. But they're trying to put points up on the board so that it looks like they won by more points than they actually did. But Blake, my issue, and what I'm going to keep repeating, is that if this was a one-off instance and this happened one time and it's just a frustrating bad loss, it'd be one thing. But when we're in year 3 and the same problem keeps happening, that does not happen for other teams around the country. Top teams don't do this. They don't lose to MAC opponents at home in year 3 when you have national championship expectations. You just don't. Well,
let's get to something that we talked about all off season. Joe, I'm going to look again. What have I been telling you about Riley Leonard all offseason? I'm gonna let you tell me because I don't want to be that guy. What have I been telling you about Riley Leonard all offseason?
It wasn't good enough of a passer.
That he wasn't a good enough of a passer, but what was the bigger thing?
What? I don't remember.
That when
exactly.
you miss that much time with a new OC and you're not on the field doing it, shit like this is going to happen. Now,
well, but that's the whole point of that game is to reestablish that chemistry. That's the whole point of that game.
Well, they don't have chemistry to start off with. You can't reestablish chemistry when you've never had it. So the deep post, I'm going to be a little real with you. I don't know how much I blame Riley Leonard. Don't get what I'm saying twisted. But there's a chemistry issue there. Now, Riley is in a very interesting situation. I texted you when he threw that first interception. Joe, he panicked, and that first interception that he's trying to check down to is a bad throw. It's a bad decision. And look, listen, as somebody who has conversations and had conversations with Mike and covered him the last 2 years, knowing Mike's offense the way that I do and have seen the last 2 years, that is not the way that it's supposed to be run. Mike's offense is predicated on dunk, 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 deep. Dunk, 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 deep. That's all he does. And then he'll get some running game in there. Riley, something is off with the communication between him and Denbrock on how they want to accomplish the game plan. But here's the big thing, and I love Mike. Joe, the bottom line was he got away from running the football. Jeremiah loves the dude. That kid is a dude. And getting away from him, I think he had 11 carries, 79 yards. Why are you not giving him the football more? This is why I'm saying to some extent, and this has got to be on Marcus. When you hire a guy like Denbrock, he's got to be yelling at Denbrock saying, run the damn football. If I'm going to blame Marcus about something, the thing that I blame on him the most is not getting in Denbrock's ear and saying, run the football.
But this is my whole point, what it all comes back to. Marcus very clearly, he's not, you can tell that he's not confrontational because, again, we have never panned to the sideline and seen Marcus Freeman walking over to his offensive line and saying, guys, you need to lock in. You need to get focused. It's always just him standing there in his tight
Do you really think that he's not doing that, by the way?
I don't have evidence of it. And the way that they play suggests that. And to your point, yeah, he probably should have pressed Mike Denbrock. And I know that he didn't.
No, he probably didn't. Here's another thing, too, before we wrap up this game.
Yeah.
Essentially, you had 4 turnovers. You had the 2 interceptions by Riley Leonard and then the 2 blocked field goals. That's basically 4 turnovers, right?
Yeah.
Joe, when you have that many turnovers, you legitimately are not going to win football games. And I'll say this too. Joe, you have a problem on offense. You have a massive problem. And it starts with Riley Leonard. You better line up and start running the football. Because until you start giving that kid more reps in this offense, you're going to continue to have problems. Or, here's a thought. You did it with Jane Daniels in 22. Run the piss out of Riley Leonard. Run the piss out of him. Run the football. Here's what I think has happened. You hired Mike Denbrock thinking that you were going to have a high-flying offense. And, Joe, I'm going to tell you something you're going to hate. You don't have the weapons on the outside the way that you think that you do. You don't.
I hate that you come. I think it was just poorly schemed in execution of trying to get those guys the ball.
Joe, there was no separation from your wide receivers to their DBs, and you know that.
The route concepts that they were calling were. I still refuse to accept that. I think that there's plenty of receivers that were not set up in a position to succeed. Again, it's a coaching. It's completely a coaching issue. But
it's really,
I mean, like, I can't wait for them to fix these issues and to play in the Mayo Bowl, like the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Like, I can't wait for that, man. It's really exciting stuff what they're doing. It's just really competitive, great football that, tough loss. They'll rebound. They'll figure it out. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to go 9-3, and they're going to play in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Really highly accomplishable stuff, Marcus Freeman. It's bullshit. It's that he's not the guy. The quicker that they realize that, the better for Notre Dame fans, and they need to have a higher standard. Go get Eli Drinkwitz. Go get Bill O'Brien. I think that if the Giants fire Brian Daboll, that should be the guy that they hire.
Who?
Brian Daboll. Go hire an NFL guy.
You want Notre Dame to hire Brian Daboll?
I think Brian Daboll's a great coach with a really crappy situation because he's screwed over by Daniel Jones. I would absolutely believe in him.
He doesn't like the recruiting like that, Joe.
You know who, and
Listen
you know
to
what made
me.
me think of him? Wait, you know what made me think of him? Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was fired by the Patriots, and then we saw what he did at USC.
Listen to me. You don't want that for your program.
I do.
Okay,
We need somebody who's been a legit
the
head coach.
relationship with somebody that I had on the Alabama staff and now is at Ohio State. I'm telling you, Dayball hates recruiting.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead and hire him. See what? Yeah, you know what?
I'll take your word for it.
He loves recruiting. He loves recruiting. Go hire him.
I'd rather have a guy that screams at his team than one who recruits and doesn't get them up.
No, you don't. Trust me. No, you don't. All right. You want to get to Texas, Michigan?
Yeah, let's do it.
Joe, Texas absolutely obliterates. Nah, I probably shouldn't start off like that. Hold on.
They obliterated them.
Okay,
You're correct.
Okay. Texas goes up to Ann Arbor and absolutely manhandles Michigan in a really good game for Texas. When you looked at this game, a noon kickoff, I thought it was really competitive early. What did you think of this Texas-Michigan game?
Yeah, I talked about this whole offseason that I thought that this Texas team was going to really prove themselves potentially early. And I thought that their secondary was going to be a lot better. Their secondary played great. I know it wasn't exactly against a super potent passing attack, but they made some plays. Their coverage was really strong. I thought that their defensive line stepped up in situations when they needed to. I'm not going to fully go in on the Texas will beat Georgia. Not going to do that. But I think that I was affirmed that this Texas team deserves to be in that top 4 national championship contending conversation. I am replacing them with Oregon. I think that Texas is going to go on a tremendous run this year. And it all comes down to the performance on defense, but more importantly, the way that Quinn Ewers has taken the step forward that I needed to see, which is he is no longer hesitating. That I feel is completely out of his game. Certainly there are going to be mistakes, but he's willing to trust his traits and his teammates to make plays and to attack downfield. And that is what makes this team dangerous, what makes any team dangerous when you have a quarterback with a big arm that can fit the ball into tight windows and is willing to take those risks. He is no longer being overly hesitant like we saw in the past. I'm believing in this Texas team until they prove me otherwise. I feel really good about them. They were very, very dominant in this game from the minute that it kicked off.
I see Steve in the chat said that Texas established the run. There is one concern I have. Ryan Wingo, the long Ryan Wingo play was technically a rush that was given on the stat sheet. Joe, outside of that, they had 88 rushing yards. I agree with you. Quinn Ewers being having the experience. You know what he went in there? I feel like him and Sark did. Don't overreact. Dink and dunk him down the field. And let's go score. Because it felt like that they knew that Michigan wasn't going to score, right? Like their game plan, their thought process was like, hey, man, we know for a fact that they're not going to be able to score on us. Don't give them reasons to be in the football game, right? Like it's not as if that Texas came out there and did things elaborate. Look, Quinn went 24 of 36. I thought he did, like you said, Joe, made some really good throws. Thought he had some throws that he could have gotten back too. You know what I mean? Like missing 12 of those passes, like there were multiple times he could have sustained drives and didn't. But here's the thing that won them the game and why they continue to look dominating. It's because their offense was on the field the whole damn time.
Yeah.
They went 10 of 16 on third down. They completely did whatever they want in the passing game on third down. Wink Martindale got out coached. Sorry. I mean, It's not as if Michigan doesn't have the dudes. Sarkisian put one on him. And they were just constantly on the field. Joe, I don't want to say it like this because I think Texas had a really good performance because it's really tough to go up to Ann Arbor and win. I think that this Michigan team might be that bad, though. Like, if you're running – like, here's the thing that Sark said in the postgame. I went and listened to it this morning. Joe, when Alex Orji ran out there, he literally said that they were blitzing, that they were going full after because they knew he wasn't going to throw the football. And I think that has a part to do with they have no identity on offense, and they have a guy that was a former walk-on who they're trying to get established with guys, Joe, with guys on the outside that can't get moving. And by the way, when Davis Warren was moving the football down the field, Loveland fumbles the football. Like, he's not getting any breaks either. And then one of the interceptions, his receiver stops because he doesn't think he's getting the football. I mean, it's just they were so clunky in so many areas, man.
Look, I mean, I agree with you. I think that this Michigan team is going to obviously take a step back. And that was the whole conversation that we had in the preview, that we were very wary of, that they have a lot of deficiencies, especially on offense, trying to throw the football, but they're still like at least an 8-4, maybe 9-3 football team. They're still really good on defense. I don't think that we should take anything away from Texas. I don't.
I don't want to either, but you can't look at what Michigan did offensively and say to ourselves, like, hey, Joe, I think Texas was challenged. Don't get me wrong. Especially their offense was challenged. But, Joe, having 88 rushing yards outside the one long technical run by Ryan Wingo, Joe, you couldn't run the football.
Well,
I mean,
wait, hold on one second. They're doing that against a really good defensive line. And also, we need to remember here the injuries that they had at running back coming into the season, and then Jaden Blue, I think it was an ankle issue. He got banged up early in that game. I think for the offensive success that they had with all of these injuries at running back, it actually makes me feel better about Texas. It really does.
I'm going to preview this, and I'm not going to talk about it long. Can't do that against Georgia, though.
Obviously.
That's what I'm trying to set up here. Look, I thought Quinn was highly efficient. I mean, Gibson went 10 of 36. 3 yards a carry. Blue had 9 for 22. The other back had 9 for 30. Again, that's the part that I'm talking about. If there's one thing that Texas that I wanted to see how they looked was how did they produce in the running game against a really good front seven? They didn't produce well at all. And Texas fans are going to get mad in the chat. I could care less about that. I want to take a look, though, Joe, at we already talked about Michigan here, too. But let me ask you this. It was announced this week that Sharon Moore doesn't have a contract. Okay? And
that was weird.
So what do you think about that? I mean, you're going into this situation. Your head coach doesn't have a contract, and you look like you do offensively. Joe, I do think that they might be in a little bit of trouble. If they can't score, then what?
Well, there's a lot of teams that they're going to face in the Big Ten that, like, their offense is going to be better than theirs. I don't know off the top of my head who they play, but like teams like Minnesota and Maryland are not going to really threaten them. I think that they're going to be fine. But the whole Sharon Moore thing is really weird, and it's really concerning because it kind of makes me wonder if they're waiting to see what the punishment handed down to him is, and if they just want to be able to quickly cut ties if there's a severe allegation against him for cheating in the manner that he did. I don't understand the point of it, though. Like, I don't understand which side is being so hesitant. I agree with you, though, that there are issues, though, with Michigan clearly offensively.
You know what I thought about the first time that this thing happened with Sharon Moore? Boy, could Michigan get out of this one pretty easily.
I still think that Sharon Moore is a great coach and that he's going to figure it out. He's being handed probably one of the worst situations a first-time head coach could possibly be handed, which is
so you're going to give him more grace than Marcus Freeman you talked about earlier?
Yeah, because he's his first year. It's his first year. He's stepping into a situation where your team is being accused of ridiculous, or not ridiculous because they're true, but massive allegations of cheating. And on top of this, you're also losing your entire offense and a ton of defensive players. He was given a really bad hand of cards, and we're expecting him to hit a royal flush. It's not going to happen. I'll give Sharon Moore 3 years, year 3, if he's still doing this crap and they can't play against big opponents, then we'll have a different conversation.
I think he's a sacrificial lamb.
It does kind of feel like that, which sucks.
It feels like he's a sacrificial lamb because, Joe, here's the truth. He's the pending head coach, but he's not the head coach. And I'm going to tell you what's about to start happening in Michigan, too. If you're Ohio State and they got some recruits on their program, or phone's going to be ringing. Hey, man, they don't even trust in the head coach because they think he's cheating. And when that snowball starts going down the hill, it gets really bad. All right, you want to get to Tennessee and NC State here. We got a lot more. We got Nebraska. We got Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, Oklahoma State. So we got lots to talk about. Tennessee takes on North Carolina State, Joe, yesterday. And look, man, this was an outright beating. And I got to say this about Tennessee. We talked about this in the offseason about Tennessee that I think people don't realize. Everybody looks at Josh Heupel and says, man, they're flashy offense, very flashy on all the things that they do. the running game and defense on what you and I talked about all offseason is coming to play out. Dylan Sampson running the football, that front seven defense, they showed up and showed out last night for the Volunteers.
It was really annoying to me this week that when we both put Tennessee in our top 10s because we said, watch what's going to happen this week. Everybody just sit down for a second, watch what's going to happen against NC State, and you're going to understand why we put them there. So many people pushed back. And you know what I was quickly reaffirmed on that we said last week? This team is really well-rounded. They belong in the bucket of top teams that can contend for a national title. I know that bucket's a little big right now, but we're in week 2. We can throw out 6-7 names until things start to whittle themselves down and injuries happen and certain guys start to slow down being hot. I was affirmed that this offensive line is freaking fantastic, that they're able to create easy rushing lanes for Dylan Sampson. They're able to protect Nico. I was really affirmed on one key thing. Nico is the perfect quarterback for this system. I wouldn't be shocked if he's not getting attention for the Heisman at the end of the year. But more importantly, next season, we're going to be having some serious conversations of him as the Heisman favorite, first overall favorite. This team, with how they play on offense, how quickly they can score points, and how smothering, and the same thing we said about Miami last week, smothering, aggressive, downhill, turnover creating on defense makes them a tough out against anybody that they play. That was a ranked top ACC NC State team that they made look like an FCS program. They are really freaking good, and they could be top 5 good in the next few weeks.
Okay, here's how I want to break that down. Number one, I think Nico Iamaleava, there you go. I thought he finally looked human, if that makes sense. The interception that he had, it was an overthrow that got picked off, and then the second interception, his arm gets hit, the ball flies up, and it gets picked. I'm kind of, in a way, if I'm a Tennessee fan, a little bit happy about that. Let me explain why. Because now Heupel gets to correct him on certain things on what he should and shouldn't be doing. I thought he had a great game. I thought he still looked really good and really efficient. Great throw of the football, 16 of 23, 211, and 2-2. But, Joe, the thing that's helping him right now that a lot of young quarterbacks don't have is Dylan Sampson, 20 carries, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They're running the football and playing good defense. You know, I think of the Will Brooks pick 6 last night as something like, hey, man, you don't have to do this on your own. So those shots that you're taking, you don't have to take them because we're going to make these stops for you. Now, we'll get to NC State in a minute. But, Joe, where the game was won last night and why I think it's starting to be a little bit of, hey, man, what can this Tennessee team be, is it's not the high-flying throwing the ball all over the place that people associate Heupel with. Mm-hmm. It's that they're running the football at an efficient rate. Now, they're going to get tested against Oklahoma. They're going to get tested in these next couple of weeks. But they're shutting down the run and running the football and going right at you. You know, there was a play where Nico got hit out of bounds, and then the very next play, the offensive line, I forget the player for NC State, they absolutely drove him out of bounds, got flagged for it. You know, they pretty much Michael Orred him on a double team. They are a nasty group up front. Now, they're going to get tested, and we're going to see how good they're going to be. But when I look at Tennessee and I see that Nico still ran for 65 yards and a touchdown, and Sampson did what he did, Joe, I think it's what we talked about in the offseason with them. On paper, they look like they're more balanced than anybody's given them credit for coming into the season.
That's where I keep coming back to. I feel like just generally a lot of apprehension for some reason to like really back Tennessee. I think a lot of people were hesitant of like, are they going to falter anywhere? The well-roundedness.
You got Oklahoma. You're
right.
Going there. That's going to be a tough game. And you know Oklahoma's going to play up to that. You got Georgia. You got Bama.
Yeah.
And Joe, here's the thing that I want to be cautious. Where I think Tennessee may be good, I still understand that they got 3 defensive lines that they're about to face in the next couple of weeks or next couple of months. That, okay, it's one thing to do this against NC State. Can you do that against the big dogs? That's the part that they're going to have to answer.
Obviously, there's still time to be proven, but we're in week 2, and we're going off of these teams facing against lesser opponents. So we don't have enough true evidence to know how do you step up in the big games, because that's where the real separation is. That's where the separation is, where a ton of times we'll have these really talented types of teams like Tennessee, but they don't know how to get up for a big game. Also, I just love to keep bringing this back to Marcus Freeman. That's how a team's supposed to look in year 3. That's how a team's supposed to look in year 3 under their head coach.
Well, this is year 4 for Heupel, is it not? Yeah, I think it's year 4.
It is year 4. Never mind. Ignore me. I'm just being a dick.
Well, it's what it looks. Here's what it looks like too. When your collective and your administration and your coaching staff is aligned, and you get quarterbacks and you're getting good offensive and defensive linemen, they are very established at Tennessee from top to bottom. You know, coaches talk about and use the cliche word alignment all the time. That's what alignment looks like. Georgia, that's what alignment looks like. So we'll see how they look. Here's something that I look at them though, Joe, that worries me just a little bit. Okay. Nico got confused by underwhelming secondary. There were some throws that he got really confused in. Now, I'm talking about that for the beginning part of the season because he's going to be a superstar. Like, for example, I think Brent Venables can throw some really weird things at you. You get what I'm saying? Like, he can dial some things up. So if there is a concern, I would say that, but it's not a massive concern. I'm trying to be very nitpicky on this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like I almost like don't even, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm like not even like worrying about that because it's his 3rd ever start. The pick that he threw that was an overthrow, it always comes back to what I talk about with these talented quarterbacks that
he threw it in a triple coverage.
Not necessarily. He didn't really necessarily throw that in triple coverage. He was
breaking
breaking down the middle of the field. It was a really tight window that he knew he had the arm to take that risk, but he misfired and he overthrew it, which led to the interception. The thing that I always come back to with quarterbacks, they're as gifted as Nico, like Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart's another guy that I think of that's got really good traits. These guys that can take these risks, I want to see them take the risks because sometimes they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay out, but when they do, then your offense is going to be able to produce huge chunk plays, and you can really stress defenses. So risks to me are not an issue. Confusion is reps. It's more opportunities to learn.
To your point, like I just said, to all Tennessee fans that want to come in here, I'm being very nitpicky. You know what else I want to see Nico do? I think he wants to stay in the pocket a little too much to some extent. Use that athleticism and go get down.
He could. I think he could use his legs a little more. I think that would be great for.
I think if he got on a phone call with Jaden Daniels, I think that or Lamar or anybody,
or Hendon Hooker, the guy who was there before,
it would really benefit him a little bit. Look, man, we put Tennessee in our top 10 last week. Got a lot of pushback by people for us putting Tennessee in our top 10. Doesn't look that bad now. Joe, any thoughts on NC State?
They shouldn't have been ranked. And I'm done talking. I'm done talking about the ACC. You know, I don't think that the ACC is going to really put up much of a fight. There is one really good team, and that's Miami. And we're going to just see the rest of these teams cannibalize one another the rest of the year. It could be the most random second highly ranked ACC team. It's probably going to be Clemson. Maybe Syracuse sneaks their way in there. Georgia Tech will probably be in that conversation.
I'm going to throw this out there. I love the way, I know it's App State. I love the way that Clemson responded.
Do you know? So we don't give betting picks on this show. My betting pick, my lock of the week was
App State.
Was that Dabo was going to cover against App State because of course he shows up and completely knocks the crap out of a completely meaningless opponent so that he can act all smug and look how good we are. Look at how we put up 60 points. Look how potent this offense is. It's the most Dabo thing that could have happened, but yeah, it's a nice win for them. I hope maybe it'll do something for them.
Look, Will Brooks' pick 6 was phenomenal.
Yeah, great play.
Great play. They're really good on defense. Here's the thing: Grayson McCall is trying to stream up paddle or go upstream without a paddle. Yeah. Dude has no outside of Concepcion and Hollywood. He has nobody, and I feel bad for him. I don't think this NC State team's that good. All right. Let's get to Nebraska, Colorado. We got a couple more games here. Mm-hmm. Joe, Colorado goes to Lincoln, Nebraska, and absolutely gets pushed around. I'm not going to – how do I want to say this? I'm not going to BS around this because last week I came on this show and got a lot of hate by Colorado fans. I don't know when. I literally went through all of our YouTube comments and asked, hey, how long have you been a Colorado fan, to all the Colorado fans? There's one thing that I told you that was going to happen. and it played out. Your O-line and D-line was going to get pushed around. And, Joe, Nebraska came out and physically dominated up front, in my humble opinion, from the first snap to the last snap, and beats Colorado 28-10. And I want to say this, too. Nebraska fans were in our comments all week telling us, and I quote, "This is the biggest game that we've had in the last 7 years." And they showed up and they showed out. It meant more to them than Colorado by a long stretch.
I think like the biggest takeaway for also, wait, first, by the way, I've said this too many times. I'm done talking about Colorado. I can't believe I let
you picked them to win.
Yeah, no, but that's my point. Is like I'm sick of this. Like there's no reason to support them, and I let the love that we got after the first week from the Colorado fans kind of go to my head. I'll be completely honest with that, and I completely deeply regret it. Nebraska, though, on the other hand, it really showed the difference between these two teams in the way that they're building their rosters. I think that Matt Rule is developing an amazing foundation. You've got this gunslinging quarterback who is going to stick around and help develop and recruit this team and bring in better players. I think if they have a great portal haul next season, they're going to be a top Big Ten team. They're going to be a playoff team knocking on the door. They have a physical offensive line. They have a physical defensive line. They have the makings of a team that is going to continue to get better and better every single year. And Matt Rule, another one of these guys, just like Bill O'Brien, who gets clowned on by NFL fans because he wasn't meant for those opportunities, but is really just such a good coach and a great leader of men that he is deserving of recognition of being a tremendous motivator, team builder, all of those things. Only thing on Colorado, Blake, just like we saw and we talked about with Florida State, you can't build a team through the portal. You just can't. The lack of communication and flow and chemistry between just the interior of the offensive line, just that grouping, your center and two guards, the amount of pressures that we watched in the past 2 weeks come up the middle and completely blow up plays, inability to run the ball up the middle, inability for Shedeur to have a clean pocket. You can't build by recruiting through the portal this much. And it's blowing up in Deion Sanders' face. He needs to. He absolutely needs to recruit better at the high school level.
Look,
it's going to take a couple of years.
No, it's not. He had 2 years, and he didn't do it. I mean, look, he pushed a lot of people out of doors. The Louis bag thing. I'm bringing my luggage, and it's called Louis or whatever, however he claimed it. Joe, they have no team culture. They have no team chemistry. Mm-hmm. And this is what I was talking about in the pre-show when we broke this game down. I looked at last week, and Colorado fans pushed back at me. You can't run the football. And the best thing that you can help a quarterback with is running the football. Joe, 22 rushes, 16 yards. They lined up. They were down 7-0. They went for it on fourth down. It was 4th and a half a yard, and they can't get a half a yard.
That's insane. That's
insane.
It's
not. No, it's not. Because when you recruit the O-line the way that Deion did, okay, it's built when you can't build an offensive line and defensive line like that through the portal. You got to establish recruiting through high school and developing. You can't do what he's doing. Doesn't matter because he's only there for probably for specific reasons anyway. Joe, I'm going to say this, and you're not going to agree with me. Dylan Raiola outplayed Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. But wait, by the way, before you finish your thoughts, so I had a lot of Nebraska fans that were like pissed at me because I made the statement that he tries to do too much. We can't compare him to Patrick Mahomes and Caleb Williams and not acknowledge that archetype of quarterback likes to take risks. One of the touchdowns that he had, the last touchdown that he had, he threw the ball into tight coverage. Almost got picked, and it bounced into his receiver's hands for a touchdown. It's a good thing that you're willing to take those risks, but trying to do too much is not a bad thing for a young quarterback. It pays off sometimes like it did on that play, and sometimes it leads to turnovers. But your point on Raiola, I agree.
Here's another thing. Shedeur doesn't have any help when it comes to pass block. or run game, any of it. Joe, Nebraska had 6 sacks. He looked confused when the crowd got really loud.
Yeah.
He had a pick 6 in the red zone. And here's the thing that I talk about why the running game is so big. You know, Joe, I'm going to be real with you. I don't blame the run. I don't blame the pick 6 on Shedeur. Let me tell you why. It's 1st and 10 from the 3.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to run the football. You're putting your quarterback. Everybody knows that he's throwing the football. Matt Rule in the postgame said this. He said when they called the pick 6, you know what he told his defense? Guys, they're not going to run the football. Like, bite on anything when they're throwing. And they did, and they called a pick 6. I think that Shedeur is going to be a really good quarterback. The problem is that he has zero help around him.
And he's set up for failure by Pat Shurmur, who sucks, who's the offensive coordinator.
Can I be real with you? I'm going to be real with you. I know you hate Pat Shurmur, but let me tell you this. Pat Shurmur isn't developing in reference, or he's not building the team through recruiting. That's not what he was supposed to come in and do.
Joe, I get that, but he called a lazy game like he always does.
Let me tell you why he didn't call a lazy game. You know why?
Why are you defending all these coaches today? I don't understand why you keep defending these coaches.
He
sucks.
I'm not defending Pat Shurmur. What I'm doing is that his head coach kicked an entire offensive line out and put him in the portal. Meanwhile, they can't get a yard. That's not on Pat Shurmur. That's not
that part isn't, but also his play calling was inept. Like you just pointed out, why are we throwing the ball with your quarterback standing in the end zone?
Because they can't run the ball, and he knows that.
Try, at least give it a shot.
He did. Joe, 22 rushes, 16 yards.
That's not that many rushing attempts.
Okay, fair, but you still can't run the football. Here's the thing.
I think it's the culmination of issues.
And I hope this gets clipped. Here's the thing with Colorado. They are not good.
No, that's why I'm done talking about them.
No,
they'll be lucky to scrape together 6-6. That's
there was
it.
A play that Shedeur overthrew Travis Hunter, and Travis Hunter comes over to DeLeone and is complaining. Their culture is not good enough to win football games at this league.
No.
It's just not. So, look, let me ask you about this before we move on. Joe, is Nebraska, I'm not going to say they're a contender, but is Nebraska a team that you could see get 8, 9 wins this season?
I think this year they're good enough with a winnable schedule to go 8-4, and then next year, and we're going to spend the whole offseason talking about them as a Big Ten contender. We need to have some foresight without getting too amped up because this team is young. I totally see the vision. Like, I really totally see what Matt Rule is trying to do. That is a program being built the right way. I see it for next year. I don't see 9-3 this year. That requires to be super well-rounded. And I think that just the youth is one thing that's going to catch up to you when you play your tough Big Ten opponents.
The only thing that I worry about with Nebraska, and Raiolas is going to have to work through this, 3-12 on third down. Okay, he made a lot of throws in front of the sticks, and he's going to have to learn. In games like this, you got to throw beyond the sticks on third down. Here's another thing too, Joe. Shedeur Sanders was 3 of 11 on third down.
Horrible.
Abysmal. All right, we got a couple more before we get out of here.
Yep.
Want to go to Kentucky and South Carolina?
Well, I kind of wanted to opt out of that. I want to talk about Oregon, and if we're going to get to 2 more games, can we talk about Oregon and can we talk about Arkansas?
No.
I admittedly did not get enough of an eye on the South Carolina game to talk about it.
Of course you did.
I was watching that. I had to watch the Notre Dame game.
All right. Well, can I go on a tangent for about South Carolina for 5 minutes?
All right, go ahead.
All right. We're not going to break the game down then allegedly, but here's what I want to say about South Carolina. Joe, I get that what they're doing doesn't look pretty, and I know that Kentucky offensively is horrendous, but we need to have a serious conversation. Now, they play LSU this week, meaning South Carolina. Joe, I don't know if Shane Beamer didn't recruit a defensive front 7 that is not freaking really good. Joe, they're really
I wouldn't go as far as say really good. I think it's a good defensive front, and we knew out of the ODU game that they were going to be tough.
In 2 games, they're only allowing 8 points per game. That's number 3 in the country.
Yeah, but they played ODU, and they played a Kentucky offense that was extremely overhyped.
No, what we thought. Here's what happened in that game. South Carolina did exactly what we thought that Kentucky would do.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm going to be real with you. Lenore Sellers made enough good throws against a really good defense that beat them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd jump right into
that. All right, you better.
It's a really strong defensive line, but
Dylan
I'm
Stewart
not
is a dude.
Absolutely is.
Right.
They've got some very good players, but I'm not going to completely jump down the. I will never give Beamer credit that he deserves.
Let's go to Oregon, Boise State then.
Yep.
Joe, Oregon wins a thriller against Boise State. I'm going to kick it over to you. A lot of people are panicking on Oregon. I guess I'm just going to kick it over to you very quickly. Your thoughts on Oregon barely a field goal game getting out of there, beating Boise State. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the panic is justified because when you're a really good team, I think you're always allowed one bad performance against a worse team, which they had against Idaho. You can't play the way that you did. You can't play the way that you did in back-to-back weeks against Boise State. A lot of the same issues and deficiencies showed up in this game, and they're going to continue to show up when they face off with Ohio State in a few weeks. Their offensive line is seriously having issues. They're allowing way too many pressures on Dylan Gabriel. They're not running the ball as effectively as they can, and they're overly reliant on throwing the ball. And more importantly, man, they are giving up way too many huge rushing gains to opponents. They did a little bit against Idaho, but Ashton Jeanty, who's probably the best running back in the country,
was our number 2 back. Me and you, number 2 back. Yeah, our number 3 back.
I think he was my number 2. I don't know if he was on your top 5.
No, he was my number 3. I went back. He was in my top 5.
Okay. I remember a lot of Boise State fans were mad at you for something. I forget what it was, but
because I said he's not elite.
Boy,
do I look like an idiot.
Yeah. He exposed that defense. There could be some serious problems down the line. I think that this Oregon team is strong, but they're going to lay an egg. I really think that this Oregon team is going to lay an egg. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news.
All right. I think that there is reasons for concern. Steve, this dude Steve in the chat hates my guts, man. I'm just going to throw that out there. Oh, well, Steve, you're still in here watching, and every time you watch, I get paid. So joke's on you. So listen, by the way, I'm not wrong. Went 13-7 last 2 weeks. You can kiss my ass. All right. Here's the thing that I think about with Oregon. I agree with you. I think it is. I'm not going to say it's time to panic because, Joe, what's the word panic mean? Right? Like, I mean, panic is when you lose one of these games. Panic is Notre Dame right now. Sorry, I don't mean to cut. I don't mean it like that.
I mean, that's true. I mean, it is time to panic if you are a Notre Dame fan.
It's time to panic. I'm not there yet. Okay.
Yeah,
now,
with Oregon, no.
I agree with you. Here's the thought that I had watching that game last night that I can't get out of my mind. 2 things. Joe, if Boise State had a better quarterback outside of Maddox Madsen, they probably are going to win that football game.
Yes.
Because he went 17-40. He was very inefficient. But then number 2, how bad is Malachi Nelson? Right? Like, I mean.
Well, I mean, we don't need to waste time on that because that has no implications on either of these teams.
But, Joe, here's the thing. You almost got beat by a team, and they barely can throw the football.
That's the real talking point.
They're lining up and running it right at you. Now, I mean, you're facing Ohio State in a couple weeks, and they got 2 backs just as capable as Jeanty. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Jeanty as well because Ashton Jeanty, dude, 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Put the team on his back. I mean, absolutely went off. But that front 7 for Oregon that was supposed to be a strength got pushed around. I mean, Joe, they're stacking the box, and it didn't matter. They're literally – here's the thing that I thought about last night too. Joe, The last long run, go back and watch it. They had 8 dudes in the box. 8, and it didn't matter.
Well, let me add to that too. You talked about how the front 7 was supposed to be a strength. The offensive line was also supposed to be a strength.
They're
Your 2
banged up on
tackles.
the offensive line, though, too. I can't do that because they're banged up there. Very banged up on the offensive line.
But they were giving up pressures off from their tackles, and their tackles are supposed to be two of the best in the country. And I just am underwhelmed when your position groups that are supposed to be an anchor are not. Forget about playing well, not carrying your team. That's a problem. Like, that's a problem that we thought that those were supposed to be your biggest strengths, and they're not panning out the way that we thought. I'm not saying that this Oregon team is going to completely crap the bed like Florida State and that they're going to completely fall apart. Not what I'm saying. This is still a really gifted team. But they're not national championship ready. They're just not. They're not there yet. They're a couple years away of getting where they need to be. They are deficient where they need to be dominant, and it's going to catch up to them when they play other of these top teams in the Big Ten. This isn't the Pac-12 anymore.
Well, Joe, if that's the case, we've said this about Notre Dame, we've said this about Oregon, then who's going to make the playoff?
Well, I mean, some of the teams that we've backed that I feel good about.
Tennessee,
Miami. We know that Georgia is good. We know that Texas is good. We know that Ole Miss looks pretty good until they get tested.
I mean, they're playing Furman.
I don't know. We hyped up Tennessee after they beat the crap out of an FCS
Well, they
opponent.
actually played a FBS opponent.
Well, but I think if what are besides the point. But you're right. It feels. I think that the playoff field is going to be so off from everybody's predictions, and Oregon's proof of that.
You know what, Joe? I'm going to throw this out there about the Big Ten. You have a USC team that's out there that doesn't look that damn bad now, do they?
I think that I forget if Oregon plays USC. I think that they do.
Yeah, they play USC.
I forget what week it is. I might pick USC in that game. I really might, as much as that hurts me.
USC's defense is insane. And I'm going to tell you, man, you better not let Lincoln start getting that running game going like they did last night. Yeah. I mean, look, Joe, here's how I'd frame this. If Boise State's pushing you around, there's going to be a lot of teams in the Big Ten that are going to push you around too. That's how that conference works. They're going to line up and run the ball right at you. And if you can't stop that, you're in trouble. Now, I don't know outside of Ohio State if anybody has a back as good as Genty, but they got better offensive lines than Boise State. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. That's where the real
not good, bud.
Yeah, you're going to be playing a Big Ten schedule that's going to try and run the ball and establish the run. It could be really sobering dropping a game to a random mid-level Big Ten team because they run the ball well.
I know Penn State, was in a dogfight, but Joe, you start getting to a point. These couple of teams in the top of the Big Ten, there's Penn State who has a very favorable schedule throughout here. Mm-hmm. What do they look like? And I'm going to tell you the truth. Look, what did we talk about in the preview of LSU versus USC? What was the biggest thing that I hated? Everybody shit on Lincoln all offseason. And here's the thing. They took it more personal than anybody. They read the press clippings. They went full Rocky Balboa and Rocky IV. Drago! They did. I mean, dude, they are Joe, the simple fact that they lined up yesterday and did whatever they want to and then won against LSU, I don't know if USC's not a contender here that people need to watch out for.
They're saying that Oregon does not play USC. I guess that's weird. Why don't they play USC? Why wouldn't you deliberately schedule the West Coast teams to play each other every year?
Well, Michigan plays USC in a couple of weeks, do they not?
I believe that they do.
And I'm going to tell you, Joe, that's going to be another is that game in Ann Arbor?
I don't think it is. Let me see.
Dude, USC might be back.
USC has a bye already, and then week 4, that's in Ann Arbor.
They go to Ann Arbor and win. USC might be back, dude. You give Lincoln 2 weeks to prepare for Michigan? Oh, God.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
At least they didn't lose to Northern Illinois. All right, let's wrap it up here.
Fuck you. You deserve that.
You better be glad we went an hour and 15 minutes on the show before I brought that up and said something like that. All right. Let's wrap it up with Arkansas and Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Joe, I hate it for Arkansas fans right now. Now, they were in our comments all week saying that they were going to blow out Oklahoma State, and
they were going to. They were. After the whole first half, they had them, Blake. Sorry, continue.
It's not how you start the game, it's how you finish it.
I can't believe I predicted the game perfectly, and they just completely crapped their pants. That is the most frustrating incorrect pick I had this whole week.
So you said that they were going to blow them out, and I got to be honest.
No. I didn't say that they were going to blow them out. I said that they were going to cover and they could win.
You said 14 to 14 plus.
That's not what I said. What? Arkansas over Oklahoma State. I said they were going to cover and that they could beat them. I didn't say that they were going to blow them out.
Okay. Joe, how do you have 648 total yards, 33 first downs, 11 for 19 on third down, and still lose? I'll tell you how. Because it's basically like you had 3 turnovers. You had 3 massive turnovers and then 2 missed field goals. That's how you lose football games. And I got to be real with you. I thought Taylor Green showed flashes, Joe, I know you're a draft guy. Dude, he showed serious
gifted.
He's gifted. Bro, you know who he is? I'm going to say it.
He's got Lamar traits. He really does have Lamar Jackson traits.
He's Cam without running you over.
Yeah, he's a little more finesse.
Okay? They're same size. Pause. Joe, when you let teams stay in games like Arkansas let Oklahoma State stay in, you're going to lose. Here's the thing, too. Okay. I felt like that once they got up, Sam Pittman told Bobby Petrino to go conservative, and it bit him in the ass.
Well, okay, I actually completely don't even like the wording of letting Oklahoma State stick around in it. They literally opened the door and let them walk back in unscathed as easily as they could have when they had their foot on their throat to close out the game. Yep. Here's my prediction. That game really solidified the conspiracy theory that a lot of people had during the offseason. Pittman's going to get fired in a couple of weeks. Bobby Petrino is going to be the interim coach. Arkansas is going to finish the year strong. Bobby Petrino will be the next head coach of Arkansas football. And look, it comes down to what you just said. 600 yards of total offense. The offense was not the issue. They played unbelievably well. The yards and the plays that they were able to create and generate was at an elite level. They were embarrassing Oklahoma State. Jaquindon Jackson ran all over them. Taylor Green made so many big plays. But what killed them was a lack of discipline with penalties and turnovers and just dumb, silly mistakes. That's the head coach. It comes down to the head coach and preparation and focus. And again, discipline. Discipline. One of the most important things in football. I think that Pittman's done. That is a.
I'm not going to say that after one loss. I'm not going to do that because
but it's been for 2 years now. Okay. Come on.
But they have UAB, then they have Auburn.
If they lose to Auburn, it's over.
Well, that's fair. If they lose to Auburn, it's over. But Auburn just lost to Cal.
You think that Hugh isn't pissed off and trying to?
I think Hugh's got to bench Peyton Thorne's what I think, but that's neither here nor there. Joe, they got to clean shit up, and they got to clean up the turnovers. I think that they look good, really good on offense. I think they look. Here's the crazy thing. I actually think that they looked good.
Right? Their linebacking core looked pretty good, even though they were supposed to be bad. Like they were getting after Ollie Gordon.
They bottlenecked Ollie Gordon, but the problem was, you know what it came down to? The team that had been together the longest knew what adversity was and knew how to overcome it. And here's the thing that I don't want to do. I don't want to completely take things away from Oklahoma State either. Because, Joe, they could have folded.
They got handed that win. Okay,
that's fair. But you know what they also did? They also had 4 straight stops against Arkansas's offense to go in and then take the lead. That's what I know. So there comes a point where I get what you're saying, but how are you going to defend 4 straight stops and then them coming back to tie it? Like, there's got to be – you get what I'm trying to say here? Like, I'm
gonna completely disagree. I'm not gonna give Oklahoma State.
They went 0 for 4 on third down in their last 4 possessions. They had to give the ball back. Then they make a stop and they muff a punt. That's not on them. I get that.
They did not. They 0% deserve to win that game. No, 0%
couldn't put the game away, and you know that.
Yeah, Oklahoma State could not have handed them that win any more than they did. Or Arkansas could not have handed them that win any more than they did.
There's something to be said about 4 stops at the end that Arkansas couldn't prevail from. And here's the thing, too. That overtime sack that Taylor Green took was the backbreaker.
Yeah.
The backbreaker. So, I don't know, man. I hate it for Arkansas because by the way, Arkansas fans, told you about Tesla. Maybe you should just shut up and listen sometimes. But, Joe, offensively, I've been the champion of Bobby Petrino taking over. Like, I've been the champion of that. Just another step in that. Another step in that fold. So, look, they got the UAB who lost to ULM last night. General Booty spanking that ass. And then at Auburn. So you got 2 games before you got A&M, Tennessee, and LSU. Here's the thing with Arkansas, Joe. At the end of September and early October is that one of the more brutal stretches. A&M, Tennessee, LSU. That's where I think Sam Pittman's going to define if he's going to be remain the head coach of Arkansas. So we'll see. All right. An hour and 20-minute show. We had a lot we had to get to.
There was a lot to talk about.
You know, we should have been able to come in here and not have to spend 30 minutes on Notre Dame, but
we only spent 15.
We spent the start of the show, and then we did a whole segment.
Yeah, that was
a lot about Notre Dame today. Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all again tomorrow. We missed some super chats, I was told. Elks says, Joe, it's up to them to give a shit and go play. Talking about
Yeah, no. That was about Notre Dame when I was when we were yelling about the players. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but I still on Marcus Freeman.
They still got to go out there and play, man. Dude, here's the thing. I'm going to leave it with this. Howard crossing that interior defensive line got pushed around on critical.
Yeah, they did, and it's Marcus Freeman's fault.
You know what Notre Dame is? Can I tell you what Notre Dame is? Here's my last thing. You know what Notre Dame is? They are the New York Bagel of college football teams. Overrated.
All right, now you're just being hurtful.
Tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Peace.